Welcome out to ABC East Lanes in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania for today's BuddiesProShop.com Adult Bowlers Tournament presented by Brunswick. Today's tournament is an over-under 45 event. We're down to the top 6 after 44 entries in today's tournament. Number 1 seed Eric and Jason Cornog and number 2 seed Taylor and Keith Papetti. They'll be receiving byes here in the first round of the NFL bracket style finals. And then the 3 seed Kerry Smith and John Fury will face the 6 seed and Scott Denlinger and Rick Graham. And then the 4 seed will be Matt Martinelli and Paul Pinto will face the 5 seed and Troy Lint and John Delp III. I'm Dylan Bauer, being joined alongside Matt Himmelreich. And Matt, if you would like to do any more further telling us about how these players and teams got to this position in the tournament.
Sure. Thanks again for having us on this live finals. Yes, we had started with 88 bowlers today, 44 teams. These teams were made up of actually doubles teams. It was any partner doubles that could bowl in this event, and basically we paid out the top 9 teams for prizes, but we're down to the top 6 here. And as you said, we're going to have 3 versus 6 and 4 versus 5. The winners will bowl the first and second seeds in a 1-game match, and then the winners of those semifinal matches will bowl for the title. Thank you guys for putting this on. We do appreciate it, and we hope we get a lot of people out there to tune in and watch our finals here. I want to take a moment to thank our sponsors, BuddiesProShop.com, who sponsors our Adult Bowlers Tour this year. We've had a handful of events on the schedule, and we have a couple more coming up over the next coming months, including our invitational. So, we're very excited to have this get started. So,
all right. So today's tournament's not an over/under 45. Just to clarify that, then, and like we said, we're down to the top 6 teams, NFL bracket style. Had the 6 games of qualifying, and now will be. Would you like to explain the rest of the format for the rest?
Sure.
Of the tournament?
We're just getting started here with the first round of the finals, and basically what we have is we have 6 teams in the finals when they do their playoff system, and we have the 3 seed, which is Kerry Smith and John Fury on lanes 3 and 4 here, bowling against 6 seed Scott Denlinger and Rick Graham. They will bowl a 1-game match, and the winners, total pins, will advance in the finals. On the right pair, 7 and 8, we have seeds 4 and 5 seed teams, Mike Martinelli and Paul Pinto, bowling against Troy Lint and John Delp.
All right. Today's winner will go home with a grand prize total of $2,000, second place $1,000, third $500, as well as fourth place $500. And the loser of these first 2 matches will go home with $400 as we are underway with Scott Denlinger taking the first ball on lane 4 for his team. He strikes as his partner is Rick Graham.
Yes, and we're also started over here on 7 and 8. Looks like we have an open and a strike on the right lane for Troy Lint and John Delp. Matt Martinelli started with the strike, and also Paul Pinto with a strike. Once again, this total pins for this game advances them to the semifinal round.
John Delp out of Reading, PA, and his partner Troy Lint out of Arrow. And they are going up against Matt Martinelli and his partner and Paul Pinto. Pinto from Philadelphia, Martinelli out of Admore, Pennsylvania.
Martinelli with a double there on the right lane. Although, no, it looks like it came up as a foul. Very interesting. Did have a double on the board, but the foul came up on the board as Troy Lint follows up his open to start the game with a strike.
Back on lane 3 and 4, John Fury's now up on the left side, leaves a split. Fury from Freehold, New Jersey. 6 PBA 300 games in his 9 years as a member. 1 title on the regional tour from North Adams, Massachusetts.
John Delp with the solid 8-pin there on lane 7. Match is pretty even after 2 frames on the right pair.
John Delp and his partner Troy Lint finished the day 2,435 pins after qualifying. That was good enough to sit him in the 5 seed, as so far they are, like you just said, Matt, even on 7 and 8 against Martinelli and Pinto.
Very interesting oil pattern we were bowling on today, as the 35-foot Beijing pattern was our pattern of choice for today's event. The scores certainly reflected the pattern that we bowled on, as the 9 teams that cashed in this tournament were the only teams that were plus. Any of the it had to be plus to cash today, but the lanes certainly did not make it easier on our players out there today.
As far as the pattern goes, where do you suggest most of these bowlers must play in order to shoot well?
Well, the short patterns typically play that you have to play out. But from talking to a lot of players today, the lanes seem to transition a lot different than what they thought. From the players I talked to, the outside part of the lane they used the term squirrely, that it wouldn't, sometimes it would hook, sometimes it goes straight. So a lot of players ended up actually moving in on this pattern and having a little more success with that. But as you can see here in the finals, it does look like a lot of players have moved back out. Being we're bowling on a fresh pattern for the finals, a lot of players have moved back to the outside part of the lane as they are fresh once again.
So far here in the playoffs, or rather you can call it in the bracket finals, first round, both teams on both pairs seem to really be struggling, as 4 splits combined for the pair on 3 and 4, and a couple of opens over on the other pair. So as you can see, it's a very tough pattern. Bowlers are struggling across the lanes.
Yes, it certainly comes into play on these patterns, because it makes the spares very tricky, especially going cross lane. You saw just a minute ago on the right pair there, John Delp left the ball a little bit wide and ended up, the ball backed up into the gutter. Very typical of this pattern, not a lot of room for mistakes. So you will see somewhat strikes at a premium today, but this truly brings the game back to keeping the ball in play and making spares. Keep your team in the match.
Small ball is what it takes sometimes to win, and that's what the champion will look to do today. In the BuddiesProShop.com Adult Bowlers Tour, presented also by Brunswick. Dylan Bauer joined alongside Matt Himmelreich as we are in the first round of the bracket finals, round of 6. 6 teams, first 2 teams get by, so we're in first round, 3 versus 6 and 4 versus 5. As on 3 and 4, you have Kerry Smith versus John Fury versus Scott Denlinger and Rick Graham, as Denlinger was the one to just strike on the right pair. Kerry Smith also able to pick up a spare, help her team out.
On our right pair on 7 and 8, we do have an even match after 3 frames between Matt Martinelli and Paul Pinto. bowling against Troy Lind and John Delp III.
Paul Pinto has a strike and 2 spares so far in his game. Bowled at Penn State University main campus, team captain there, and has been a member of the PBA for 13 years now. Highest place in the regional tournaments came in 3rd back in 2007.
Yeah, on the left match here on 3 and 4, looks like we have a rocks about a 31. There, John missed to the right, leaving the 1-2. Right now they are trailing by about 15 pins through 3 frames in that quarterfinal match.
As far as the other side, Delp and Lint are trailing by 10 pins against Martinelli and Pinto, as Pinto and Delp still have to shoot in the 4th frame. Carrie Smith looks to come up on the right side, sparing her last frame.
Delp slides by there on the lane 7, leaving the 1-3-9. Again, typical of this pattern. Not a lot of friction at the back end, especially when it's a fresh pattern. So you see some players struggling to get that ball to turn to the pocket. A lot of the scores that we saw today came as the lane started to transition. It's a nice strike on the right lane there on lane 8 for Paul Pinto.
Delp looks to stay clean in this match. He'll shoot his spare, and he will make it.
Covers it up. After 4 frames, we have a 10-pin lead for Martinelli and Pinto over Lint and Delp Jr. Nice 4-9 spare conversion there by Scott Denlinger on lane 3. Interesting start to his game there. He had 2 splits, both on that left lane, but he converted both of them to keep his team in the match.
Scott Denlinger from Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Like you just said, he's clean as well. Not a very easy way to stay clean, but picking up 2 spares to do it nonetheless, as John Fury leaves 3.
Again, you notice with John's shot there, very similar to what we're getting a lot of today as we talk to the bowlers. Not a lot of friction on the outside. Sometimes the ball will slide by until the pattern starts to change. So a lot of it comes down to surface of bowling balls, the equipment you're using, and certainly, you know, as the pattern breaks down, following it on the lane.
So again, both matches close through 4 frames as John Fury looks to finish his 4th frame. Him and partner Carrie Smith, as Smith will get set to come up on the left lane as he makes his spare. And not many strikes so far here to start the quarterfinals. Rick Graham, the only bowler with a double so far.
Both matches, though, holding very close. Oh, a big carry there on lane 8 by John Delp. Could have been easily a 4-10 split. Gets a great break to carry the strike.
Scott Denlinger again coming up on the right side. Carrie Smith just left the same count that John Fury left his previous ball. Denlinger working off of a spare.
Crossover strike there for Paul Pinto. Big break. Matching up the breaks there on the right side.
Denlinger leaving the 2-8 on lane 4.
despite the fact that we don't have a lot of strikes, both matches still very close as we head towards the halfway point of each match. Both matches around 10-pin difference. So again, it is certainly a battle out there as we come down to the final frames.
Again, Dylan Bauer joined alongside Matt Himmelreich. Good turnout for today's tournament. 44 teams coming out to bowl today. And how do you expect that to really help you guys in the BuddiesProShop.com Adult Bowlers Tournament?
Well, the big thing is we've been trying to put out a solid event which offers a lot of big payouts for bowlers, and just trying to get a lot of bowlers from the Northeast to come out. There's many tournaments out there nowadays, but what I found is with great sponsors like BuddiesProShop.com, we're able to offer some great payouts and minimal entry fees, and that really has really brought out a handful of bowlers here today. 44 teams is one of the highest turnouts for our doubles events we've had this over the past couple of years. So this is, we really appreciate everybody coming out for such an event.
And you have some upcoming events. Sunday, January 11th, regular single event at Hanover Bowling Center in Hanover at a 12 noon start time. And then on Sunday, February 15th, an over-under 45 doubles tournament at Berksling in Sinking Springs, PA. Again, another noon start. So you guys have some upcoming tournaments for people to check out.
Absolutely, and what we're looking to build with that is we're looking to have a big event at our end of season. We're actually putting together a 2-day event for our finale event of the season. It'll be on May 30th and May 31st, be held at Berks Lanes also in Sinking Spring. And basically, we're looking to do a qualifying on Saturday and a finals on Sunday. And we're estimating the top prize to be around $2,500 to $3,000 for our finale event. So it really, it's been a growing tour. It's very exciting for me because I've been running youth bowling tournaments for 16 years, and this event was started about 3 or 4 years ago. I had a demand, a request really, from bowlers who got too old to bowl youth tournaments anymore, asked me to stay involved and run tournaments for adults and for cash money. And that's originally how this all started. Many people know me for the PJBT and the youth tournaments that I run all over the state of Pennsylvania. But over the past couple of years, we've had a lot of fun running these adult events.
And they've been working very well for you so far as we come back to the matches now, and we're into the 6th frame with Rick Graham and Scott Denlinger and Kerry Smith and John Fury, and it seems like Denlinger and Graham starting to pull away as Graham has 3 in a row, looking to make it 4 now, and he does, so that's going to add some cushion to their lead. And on the other side, still looking like a close one so far in the game.
It looks like to me on this left pair, it looks like Stenlinger and Graham have come up with the right connection as far as their ball surface and ball choice to play that outside line and get the ball to finish, whereas so far Smith and Fury have been having trouble getting the ball to the pocket. Now, looks like Fury made a ball change there on lane 4, and that ball actually got a finish there, an overreaction on that shot.
That's where you have Rick Graham, a member of the Storm regional staff and the vice regional staff. So he really has that experience, 2 regional titles as well. So he has the experience to know what works best at what situation.
Absolutely. The experience that some of these bowlers have had on the higher levels is just amazing. Good pickup there on lane 4 by John Fury to keep his team in the match. On the right pair, 7 and 8, we have a close match over here also. Martinelli and Pinto have a small lead, but we also have Troy Lint on a double, and John Dell crosses over, getting a strike there. A big break again for him on that right lane, where he's gotten 2 strikes on that lane now that were not flush, but certainly gets the break and keeps the matches alive.
Troy Lint on a double there, trying to add to his team's lead. and try to take it away from Martinelli and Pinto. Back on the left pair, Scott Denlinger. On the right side, Kerry Smith with the 6 count on the left side. Denlinger working on a strike. And whole strike again. A double for him. And it seems like Graham and Denlinger are starting to pull away even more in that match as Smith picks up her spare. Full view, you can see Rick Graham, Scott Denlinger bowling on lane 4. John Fury and Kerry Smith are on lane 3. And then Matt Martinelli, Paul Pinto, lane 7. And then lane 8, John Lint or Troy Lint rather, and John Delp III.
Tough break there for Matt Martinelli on lane 8. Flush, solid strike shot there and a stone 7-pin. Certainly they still have the lead, but certainly was hoping to get going with a strike there. Let's see if Lint can take advantage of that break. He does with a triple.
Again, we're in the quarterfinals, so the winners advance to the semifinals against the 1 and the 2 seeds, which include Eric and Jason Cornog, and then Taylor and Pop Petty. And right now, whoever loses will go home with $400, so that's about $200 a piece for the 2 bowlers of the teams that go home.
Certainly, yes, here on the left match, our 3 versus 6 match, it certainly looks like Denlinger and Graham are in command, having a 50-some pin lead heading into the 8th frame, but we have a real close match on our right pair, 7 and 8. The 4 and 5 seeds bowling each other in a 1-game match here. Very tight match. Delp leaving the 7-pin there. He is on a pace to shoot 200 as he has struck every time on the right lane, but not the left lane.
So Pinto's on the right side, goes through the nose. 6 count for him. He was on a strike. So he can still pick something up here as John Delp III gets ready to shoot a 7-pin. He'll shoot it, misses it.
That's a tough one. Very important pins there to pick up. See, hopefully that doesn't come back to bite them later in this match, because it is a very tight match there on 7 and 8.
Thanks to his partner, Troy Lint. He's on 3 in a row, so that'll at least help them for the meantime. As Rick Graham has now 6 strikes in a row on lane 4 to help his team ultimately advance to the semifinals.
Very interesting that the 6th seed will advance here, as they would end up bowling the number 1 seed then in the semifinal round. Just want to point out on 7 and 8 there, Paul Pinto just flagged the entire 3, 6, 9, 10 for a 6-0 count there. So basically that match back to even almost once again. Heading into the 9th frame, Delp missed his spare, but with that miss from Pinto, it has evened the matchup again. Now Martinelli on lane 7, leaving the double pinochle, as we know in bowling, the 4, 6, 7, 10 in the 9th frame there. So they are struggling down to the finish.
So that means Graham and Denlinger will go on to face the Cornogs in the next round. So that means whoever wins the battle on 7 and 8 will go on to face Taylor and Poppity.
Lynn goes a little wide there as the ball struggled to get back to the pocket on lane 8. But he's on pace to shoot 202, while Delp can still shoot 208, so they can shoot 410. Whereas Martinelli with that open frame can only shoot 180, and Paul Pinto can only shoot 190 pace. So it's essentially a 30-pin lead for Lint and Delp as they head to the midpoint of the 9th frame.
So like you said, a frame and a half to go on 7 and 8 to determine who goes on to the quarterfinals. Lane 3 and 4, Rick Graham comes up again. Again, he's on 6 in a row. So he'll look to keep trying things to work on to move on to the semifinals.
Yeah, it's going to be a very interesting finish here on the right pair, Dylan, because both teams struggling down to the finish. Delp and Lint can still shoot just under 400, whereas Martinelli and Pinto are on pace to shoot about 370. So their match will come down to the 10th frame for sure. Oh, and a wide shot there by Pinto, leaving the 1-2-8-10.
Interesting.
Win their match. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say it's interesting because Delp and Limp shot a 344 on their final game of qualifying, and they had all those games early, started to fall off later. Meanwhile, Martinelli and Pinto started off slow, and they came back strong to finish.
Well, no conversion there for Pinto, which is going to make it very hard for them now, as they can only max out at about a 350-some score. Pretty much Lint and Delp need to stay behind the foul line to advance to the semifinals.
The way this pattern seems to play, though, you never know what could possibly happen if a team can get the right moves going at the right time and lucky breaks on the other side. As Martinelli's shot goes wide, and that'll pretty much do it there, as long as Lint and Pinto can keep the ball on the lane.
Troy Lint leaves a split there to start the 10th frame, however. Leaves the 6-7. So once again, both teams on this right pair are struggling to get to the finish. Lint and Delp still have the lead, but it is a tight match. On our left pair here, it's pretty much locked up. Denlinger and Graham will be advancing as the 6 seeds. They will advance to the semifinal, defeating Kerry Smith and John Fury, who both grade all day today.
Yes, they did. John Fury and Kerry Smith ended up 70 over on the day, ended as the 3 seed. So they had a very good day during qualifying. Just missed out of that 2 seed by 22 pins. So they had a good day. They'll be going home with $400, and it's still an investment that they have made pretty well on.
Absolutely. You know, that's the great part of our events, is with only just a $60 entry fee when you sign up in advance. You know, as I said earlier, with great sponsors and, you know, great turnouts like today's event, still, even if you're not winning the event, you take home some decent money.
On the other side, John Delp III. All he has to do is keep it on the lane, and his team will advance, and he will do that. John Delp III and Troy Lint will now move on to the semifinals. They look on to take Taylor and Poppity. So your semifinal matches are set. It'll be Jason and Eric Cornog as they face Scott Denlinger and Rick Graham, and then they'll go on to face Mike Taylor and Keith Poppity, which will be John Delp III and Troy Lint.
Yep, and Dylan, I'll be right back. I'm going to go present the awards to our quarterfinalists.
All right, Matt. So as Matt goes to do that, we will take a step out as well. Again, your quarterfinal matches will be coming up in just a little bit, NFL bracket style. So we are now down to the final four. Eric and Jason Cornog will be facing Scott Denlinger and Rick Graham, who came in as the 6th seed, and Troy Lint and John Delp III will move on as the 5 seed to take on Taylor and Poppity. We'll be back in just a little bit with the quarterfinals. back at ABC East Lanes in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania for the BuddiesProShop.com Adult Bowlers Tour, presented also by Brunswick. We are now down to the semifinals in today's doubles event. And right now, Mike Taylor and his partner, which would be the 2 seed Keith Poppity, they are now facing the winners of last match to the 5 seed, John Depp III and Troy Lynn. In the other match, Jason Cornog and Eric Cornog, who finished as the top seed after qualifying, are facing the 6th seed and Scott Denlinger and Rick Graham.
Yes, just to summarize those matches from the first round, we had 5th seed Troy Lynn and John Delp advancing by defeating Matt Martinelli and Paul Pinto 361 to 335. And in our other match, we had Scott Denlinger and Rick Graham, 6th seed, defeating Kerry Smith and John Fury, the 3 seed, by a score of 437 to 341. Bringing us to these 2 semifinals, as you mentioned, Dylan.
So low scoring in the quarterfinals. Now in the semifinals, with the winners advancing to the championship and a chance to take home $2,000 as a team.
That's what they're seeing.
So on lanes 7 and 8, Rick Graham looks for his opening shot here in the semifinals, and he'll get a strike as his partner, Scott Denlinger, left a 9 count and then opened.
Interesting to see what happens here on this right pair. Scores were low in the first match, and we have the top seeds, the 2 Cornog brothers, bowling Denlinger and Graham, and they seem to be the hottest bowlers going into the semifinal as they had the highest team score in that quarterfinal round. Rick Graham seems to be very lined up on the outside with this pattern.
Yeah, Rick Graham, Scott Denlinger shot a 451 in game 6 of qualifying, and Rick Graham just last game had 6 in a row when they were on lane 3 and 4, and Denlinger also had a number of strikes in there as well. So 2 players did well on 3 and 4. See how they transitioned to 7 and 8, and Denlinger gets a strike there, his first of the semifinals.
On our left lane, our left pair, I should say, match so far, it looks like Keith Poppity and his partner Mike Taylor off to an early start. Troy Lynn leaving the 6 pin there. Started with a strike. So both teams pretty equally matched, but we're certainly early here in each one of these matches.
Keith Poppity up on the right lane of lane 4, and his second shot looks like he'll leave a 9 pin open in the first frame as well. He's from Delaware, from Wilmington, and he has 45 300 games on his resume.
Keith looked like he just didn't like that shot there. I think he was trying to project the ball a little bit out farther, and I think he just cut that one short there. And this pattern, there is no relief if you make a mistake. Certainly he got the ball in, it crossed over, coming up with the spare there. This pattern will not give you relief if you make a mistake, and that's what it looked like he did there.
So it ultimately comes down to the team who makes the fewest mistakes overall. They're the teams that end up coming out, and which partners can have the chemistry to advance forward as well with decent scores to build upon each other, as John Delp gets a strike after a spare in the first frame.
And that's a great point you made, Dylan, because with all of our tournaments, we try to use what I feel are somewhat challenging patterns for our events. So much today, the game of bowling is about shooting perfect games in 300s, and a lot of times we've lost the game as far as remembering that spares are just as important as those strikes out there. And as you can see with the scores today, if you were even, you cashed. So basically, it was a grind for all of these bowlers, and that's that's the uniqueness, and I think what a lot of the bowlers really love about these events.
The top 9 teams today were the ones to cash in the event. Top 6 moved on. 44 teams overall, so 88 bowlers, good turnout for the BuddiesProShop.com Adult Bowlers Tour. As Troy Lintz able to pick up his spare.
Have a pretty even match here on the left pair, the 3 and 4. So far, no real big mistakes. Match is even there. On our right pair, 7 and 8, looks like the Cornogs have an 11-pin lead at the moment. Denlinger, however, did pick up a double just in his last shot, and now Rick Graham comes up with the 4-7. Jokingly, Scott Denlinger was saying to me today that he was talking to me about, we ran a lot of side pots in today's event for over 45 bowlers and under 45 bowlers, and he jokingly was telling me how he is turning 45 in just a couple of months. So he said he becomes one of the young old-timers, as he described it. Very interesting. Big double there on the left pair for John Delp. Keith Poppity still struggling a little bit to find the pocket, leaving the 4-pin there. But again, a close match through 3 frames.
Both matches, just like you said, fairly close. Scott Denlinger and Rick Graham are currently trailing the Cornog brothers, who, if with the spare here, Eric able to pick it up, have remained clean through the first 3 frames combined. So they're off to a good start for the 1 seed.
Once again, I want to take a moment to thank Heartland Bowling Tournaments for putting on this live streaming today. This is a great thing. For many people who know me, I've been running youth bowling tournaments for 16 years, and we've been trying to get something similar to this for our youth events. And I'm very excited to say that our youth tournament series, the Pennsylvania Junior Bowlers Tournament, PJBT, will be coming out here to ABC East Lanes for a major event, as we call it, on Sunday, January the 18th. And we are planning on televising the finals live here once again on YouTube and Heartland Bowling Tournaments for our youth PJBT event. Very exciting to have the best bowlers of our youth from the entire Northeast here in one place to compete for scholarship money.
You also have several other tournaments coming up as well for the PJBT. What's some of those events?
Well, some of those events include, we have a big event actually coming up on New Year's Eve Day. Every year we run a big New Year's Eve Day tournament. That's going to be held up at Strike Zone Alleys in Pottsville, PA. It's a singles event, and it's our kickoff essentially to the new year with that event. We look forward to that every year on New Year's Eve Day coming up on Wednesday. And then the next 3 weeks will be on Sundays. Sunday, January the 4th, we are at AMF Feaster Lanes in Reading for a singles event. And Sunday, January 11th, we're at Hanover Bowling Center down in Hanover, PA. And then on the 18th, we're here at ABC East. So we have a pretty much packed schedule. We have an events almost every weekend leading up to our championship at the end of the season. And our championship invitational at the end of the year is always an exciting weekend because many of the pro bowlers from the Professional Bowlers Tour come in to interact and bowl with our youth bowlers at our invitational event. Some of the pro bowlers we usually bring in include Parker Bone III, Doug Kent, Danny Wiseman, Ryan Simonelli. Last year we were fortunate to have some of the girls from the women's tour in, so it's just an exciting weekend, and we do it all year. Basically have 40 events on a 52-week calendar, so it's pretty packed in.
It's a busy, and it's well worth it when it comes to the end.
Absolutely.
Again, back here, ABC East Lanes in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. The Buddies Pro Shop Adult Bowlers Tour, also presented by Brunswick. I'm Dylan Bauer, joined alongside Matt Himmelreich and we're in the semifinals. 44 teams rather in today's tournament, 84 bowlers in total, and we're down to the final four, the semifinals, and it started off as a NFL bracket style where the first two teams got byes, and then this is where we are now in the semifinals.
Very interesting semifinal matches we have here, as the 1 and 2 seeds right now jumping in to bowl the 5 and 6 seeds that advanced. And right now on the left pair here, we have the number 2 seed team, Keith Poppity and Mike Taylor, struggling as they're trailing by 33 pins, as it looks like Delp and Lint, both left-handed, have lined himself up. Lint working on a double, and Delp has a triple going. There's a nice trip by Keith Poppity for his first strike of the game, but they still trail by 13 at the moment, pending the shot from Delp on a turkey. On the right pair, we have a 21-pin lead, it looks like, for the Cornogs, who are our top seed going into the finals. They were 186 over for 6 games today, which led the tournament. Really picked up some speed in the last 3 games, shooting 443, 502, and 472, when 400 was a good score and at a premium all day. So they really jumped to the top of the board in the last 3 games of qualifying. And Eric Cornog just picked up a nice strike there, has a double going. His brother working on a single as they lead by 40 with Graham up on the right lane.
I believe that 500 game that they bowled, the only 500 game today throughout the entire tournament, 502. That was game 5, like you said, for the Cornog brothers, who ended up 186 over.
It's very interesting, too, when you have these patterns that are tougher. When you have one big game like that as a team, it can really jump you from the bottom of the board to the top of the board, which is not as easy when the pattern is easier and the scores are higher. It's harder to keep up with the field. These patterns really put one game at a premium and making spares. So very good job by them to jump themselves to the top of the leaderboard.
Yeah, like you were saying, they're pretty much around the even coming up to that point. They start off 367, 408, 394, 443. So just above even at plus 12, and then that one game put them up to plus 114.
Correct, and actually around the 4th game, if you were plus, you were just around the cash line at that point. So they were certainly near the top of the board, but not as the leaders. And that 502 5th game really boosted them right to the top. So we'll see how they face under the pressure here of this semifinal match. So point out on our left pair here, 3 and 4. Mike Taylor just got a strike, and Poppity now has a double. So they certainly have some speed going to try to make up 41 pins that they trail by, as both Delp and Lind have picked up a 9 spare. So in the 6th frame, Lind and Delp still have the lead, but the match is certainly tightening up.
And there's Delp able to trip out the pins and get a strike. He's doing very well so far, 119 through 5 frames, plus the strike in the 6th. So, and then his partner Troy Lint also doing well. Compared to their last game, they're really jumping up. 361 in the last game. So they learned some things, and they're trying their new things, and it's working out very well for them so far.
Lint going a little wide there on that last shot, leaving a split. The 1-3-7-9. See if he can convert that one to keep them ahead. On our pair on the right, doesn't look like Rick Graham's having as much success on this pair as he did on 3 and 4 in the quarterfinal match, as he started with a strike, but it's been all spares out. But as I mentioned earlier, spares are a premium. It's important not only to strike, but to keep that board clean, to keep your team in the match. So, and there, Jason Cornog just threw an absolutely perfect shot, leaving a solid 8-pin on the right lane. So certainly this pattern is playing tough on all of our bowlers.
I mean, the one thing you can really, the one real difference between the two pairs is on 3 and 4. I mean, there's a few more strikes, not a lot, but a few more in a row. On the right side, it's pretty much all spares, but as you can see, on a pattern like this, they're both able to equal out and keep your team in the game if you're making all your spares compared to getting a whole bunch of strikes in a row and then opening a number of times.
Well, a lot of times, certainly when you use the entire center of 32 lanes for the qualifying, every pair can break down somewhat differently. I mean, depending on the track of the bowling balls that are going down the lane and what part of the lane people are playing. So I think that is also what makes these patterns so tough, is that some people like to play in, some people play out, and it really doesn't form up a track that is consistent. So that's what makes every pair a little bit different and keeps the scores tough. It's a good shot by John Delp, looking for a double, but leaves the solid 8-pin on the left pair there. Still have a 45-pin lead, though, through 7 frames as they look to become a 5 seed in the finals.
Keith Poppity just moments ago struck to give him 3 in a row. That was on the left lane, and he's definitely carrying his team in the last 3 frames. Him and his partner Mike Taylor around the same level, but then Poppity able to get the 3 strikes. It's really keeping his team at least somewhat in the game, as Mike Taylor and his partner John Delp are kind of doing the same thing, but they're slowly pulling away from their competition.
Well, it looks like Keith Poppity is getting some speed. He's really gotten lined up now on this left pair, so it'll be interesting to see if his partner can hang in there and kind of, oh, and he gets a big break there as he kind of crosses over the head pin, but gets the snowplow strike, as we call it, and certainly that will certainly help to keep them in the match. On the right pair, looks like the Cornogs have about a 35-pin lead through 7 frames. Once again, Rick Graham leaving the solid 10-pin there. He converts to spare, but that's 6 straight spares for him. So those guys are trailing by officially 34 through 7 frames.
Again, the winners of this match move on. The losers go home with $500, and the winners will have a chance at $2,000 and the first place title. Again, we're here at the BuddiesProShop.com Adult Bowlers Tour here in ABC East Lanes in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
Great shot over here on 3 and 4 while you were going over that Keith Poppity just made it 4 in a row over here. He really seems to be lined up. It'll be interesting to see if it's too little too late, or if they are able to make a move here as we come down to the final frames.
John Delp looks to go on the left side. He's been clean so far in the game, and that one will kind of go through the nose. Gets a 6 count as Troy Lint opened right before him.
Very interesting spare coming up here for John Delp, because without a conversion, Troy Lint just opened on his last shot, so they would essentially build a brick wall and have 2 open frames in the 8th frame, which will certainly allow Taylor and Poppity back in the match. So it should be very interesting. This is a very important spare here.
Delp's ball goes just a little left, just not able to get it to come back, make the spare. So like you said, a big open there. That keeps the door open for Mike Taylor and Keith Poppity to come back into the game. Both of them working on strikes meanwhile, and Lint and Delp both opened there in the 8th frame.
On 7 and 8, great reaction by Rick Graham as he finally struck on the left lane. Kind of wanted to double check to make sure it actually happened, because he went from the 1st frame all the way to the 8th frame without a strike, but no open frames, and that's really important because he can still shoot 220. Great shot there by Jason Cornog, almost leaving the stone 9, but the side action took the 9 out, and they continue to hold a 24-pin lead through 8 frames. But Denlinger on a triple and Graham on a single strike. That's pretty much another even match. So looks like both of these matches may come down to the 10th frame.
And Jason Cornog able to trip them out there. He's able to get a strike while he was on a spare. And again, this right side, 3 of the 4 players all working on clean games. The one who's not is Scott Denlinger, and he's currently working on a turkey. And he'll be looking to go on the right lane, down on lane 8.
Over here on 3 and 4, a big break. John Delp almost left a 3-6-7 split. That would have been back-to-back opens probably for him, but a late trip out of the 7-pin, leaving just the 3-6 spare conversion. And on the left lane, Keith Poppity leaving the 3-6-9. His partner did pick up a double. So this match once again has tightened up. Good spare there by Delp. Heading into the 10th frame, it's only going to be a difference of a couple of pins, so we're going to come down to the 10th frame.
And unlike the last one where it's pretty much settled going into the 10th frame, we have 2 matches here. Both are fairly close, and Denlinger did strike again, so he's on 4 in a row. And Rick Graham as well will be coming up for his final shot in the 9th frame before that game moves into the 10th.
Big shot here right now for Rick Graham in the 9th frame.
And whole strike, that gives Graham 2 in a row.
Great shot right there, really clutch shot, and really needed that one to head toward the 10th. With both bowlers on more than a double, that really equals out the match. The board shows the Cornogs up 14, but with them both on a double, it's really an even match going into the 10th frame.
Same over here, was even, but Mike Taylor had 2 in a row, so his 9 count left the 10 pin. Gives his team a 27 pin advantage in the 10th frame, but Troy Lint able to strike as well. He's also working on a strike.
Big shot there for Troy Lint. Again, those guys had the lead, kind of gave it back in the 8th frame, and he struck there as Mike Taylor did not. And Taylor picks up the 10 pin there. He's on pace to shoot 180. As a team, they could shoot about 400 on the nose, 400 pace. So big strikes for Lind would bring him to a max score of 198. And that would also put them in the 4-0 to 410 range. So real close again on the left pair.
Left side, big shot for Denlinger. He gets a strike. That's 5 in a row now for Scott Denlinger down on lane 7. So that's a big shot for them as Jason Cornog left a 7 pin. And then back on lane 3, Troy Lint gets a 9 count. So he'll max out high 180s, and Troy Lint will finish off with a 180 as he strikes in the fill shot.
Yep, Mike Taylor putting up a 180 score there, so now they can max out at around 401. Looks like Troy Lynn has just picked up his spare there, and he's at 187. So both going to really come down to the last bowler here in the 10th frame.
Denlinger leaving the 10 pin, so his run ends at 5 in a row. He's in the 10th frame. He'll look to pick up his spare as Jason Cornog gets a 9 count. He leaves the 7 pin, so he'll finish off here in the semifinals with a 198. And his partner and brother Eric Cornog looks to finish off as Scott Denlinger picks up his spare, and he'll finish with a 220.
Very exciting as both matches come down to the final bowler in the 10th frame of the semifinals of the BuddiesProShop.com Adult Bowlers Tour event. Right now, Keith Poppity with a 610 spare. He can max out at 209, but John Delp goes wide, leaving the 13610. Very important conversion here for both bowlers to move on. Poppity picks up the spare. He can max out at 209. That would give them 389. And by doing that, he would shut out Lint and Delp, as Delp can now only shoot 200 and would be at 387. So right now, a 9 count from Poppity, and the match is a winner for Taylor and Poppity on the left pair.
Over on the right pair, as Delp shoots his pair, he's able to pick it up, and now all appears Rick Graham, who's working on 2 in a row. If he can get a good count here, it'll send his team on to the semifinals, and he'll get a strike, and that'll do it for them. So Rick,
what a big shot! Big shot.
They really came through there. Rick Graham just now had 3 in a row. Denlinger 5 in a row earlier. And now there's going to come down to a big shot over here on the left lane as Keith Poppity with the 7 count. John Denlinger a 9 to tie or a strike to win.
Absolutely. We knew he needed a 9 count, and he only got 7. So now this is a clutch shot for Delp. Strike, and they win by 1-9, and we will have a 2-frame roll-off to determine who advances to the finals. It's on its way. He gets a 9 count, and we will have a tie. So we will have a 2-frame roll-off.
It's one of the most dramatic shots there at the end. Left the 8, eventually tripped out 1 pin, and then the other one just waited to see if it would fall. It did not. So there it was, the tie games on lane 3 and 4. So 386 is what both the teams finished with, as Rick Graham finishes off on the other pair. So they are officially moving on. Rick Graham, Scott Denlinger coming in as the 6th seed, move on to the final round. And we will have this 2-game roll-off in just a little bit here. And again, Mike Taylor, Keith Poppity, and Troy Litt and John Delp III. Go over the final scores for you. Taylor a 180, Poppity a 206, and then Troy Litt a 187, and a John Delp III 199. We'll be doing a 9th and 10th frame roll-off, so essentially a 2-frame roll-off, but that second one will be 3 shots instead of the normal frame. So again, that's Taylor and Poppity going up against Lint and Delp. And again, Scott Denlinger and Rick Graham move on to the finals with a chance at $2,000 grand prize here in the Buddies Pro Shop Adult Bowlers Tour, presented also by Brunswick. Doubles event here today. And coming up, they'll have a few more tournaments for the Buddies Pro Shop. Next one will be Sunday, January 11th. It's a regular singles event at Hanover Bowling Center in Hanover, PA, start time of 12 noon. And then on Sunday, February 15th, an over-under event for 45. That is at Berks Lane in Sinking Springs, PA. And again, another 12 noon start time. Again, we're waiting a 2-frame roll-off here to determine the winner of the Cornog, or rather the Taylor and Poppity match and the Lint and Delp match. I was a 2 versus 5 seed after Lint and Delp were able to knock off Martinelli and Pinto in the quarterfinals. And then again, Scott Denlinger and Rick Graham move on to the finals. They got there by defeating Kerry Smith and John Fury back in the quarterfinals. And here, the first shot of the roll-off, that'll be a strike for Lint and Delp. Mike Taylor on the right side. His first shot, he'll leave an 8 count, but rather a split. Again, Troy Lynch struck his first shot. Taylor looks to shoot his spare. And he will open there. 8-1 for Mike Taylor. So Delp looks to shoot his first shot. And 10 pin. Rather, that was Taylor who shot that one. Poppity looks to shoot his spare. He's able to get it knocked down. Again, we're at the Buddies Pro Shop Adult Bowlers Tour, also presented by Brunswick at ABC East Lanes in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. The winner of this 2-frame roll-off moves on to the championship match. They'll be facing the 6th seed in Scott Denlinger and Rick Graham. Keith Poppity is up on the left side, which is lane 3. Oh, get a 7 count. So it looks like Poppity and Taylor finished there with the 26 overall in the 2-frame roll-off. And now Delp will look to finish for him and Lint. They have a strike. So a good count here. And Lint and Delp will move on. Delp shot here. Crosses over right side. Gets a 7 count. So for Lint and Delp to move on, they'll need 2 pins here. 1 pin, they'll tie. Shot here just right, and he'll pick it up. So there you have it. Troy Lint and John Delp III, they'll move on to the championship match, and they'll be facing Scott Denlinger and Rick Graham. So it turned out an NFL-style bracket with 6 teams, the first 2 teams receiving byes, and it would be the 5 and the 6 seed who move on to face each other in the championship match. Lint and Delp finished at plus 35 on the day, and right behind them was Graham and Denlinger, who finished at plus 33. They took that plus 33 to make the cut. And now both of these teams will look to face each other on lane 5 and 6 in just a few minutes. Matt Himmelreich will present Mike Taylor and Keith Poppity their awards for coming in their respective place.
Okay.
I threw you for a loop there.
All right, back at ABC Lanes in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania for the BuddiesProShop.com Adult Bowlers Tour presented by Brunswick as well. Again, we're in a doubles tournament. We're now in the finals. $2,000 going to the champion. And I'm Dylan Bauer, joined alongside Matt Himmelreich, the director of these tournaments. And Matt, you have many tournaments upcoming as well, so you want to tell us about those tournaments?
Absolutely. Thanks, Dylan. Yeah, we have a lot of events coming up on the BuddiesProShop.com tour. We're going to have a singles event on January 11th, 2 weeks from today. We'll be at Hanover Bowling Center down in Hanover, PA. And then we have an over-under event coming up in February, on Sunday, February 15th, down at Berks Lanes in Sinking Spring. Saturday, April the 25th. We have a doubles event just as similar to this one at Chaco's Family Bowling Center in Wilkes-Barre, PA. And then our final event is the Invitational coming up on May 30th and 31st at Berks. We're looking to give away around $2,500 to $3,000 at that event. So we invite any adult bowlers. It's only a $60 entry fee, essentially, if you sign up in advance to come out and bowl.
So some great tournaments coming up. Today's tournament, very successful as well. 44 teams putting in. And now we are finally down to the final two in this. And it has coming down to John Delp III and Troy Lint, the 5 seed, and then Scott Denlinger and Rick Graham in the 6 seed.
Very interesting with this NFL bracket final that we did today. Both 5 and 6 seeds advancing through the quarterfinals and now the semifinals. Certainly didn't have a cakewalk in the semifinal, but certainly found a way to get the victory. And, I'm sure Linton Delp didn't think they would be the higher seed going into the finals, but they certainly are.
One scenario where that can happen, and it happened with the 5 and the 6 seed.
Yes, and certainly a big match here on our title pair, 5 and 6. Denlinger and Graham both off to a strike. Lint starts with a strike, but Delp leaves the 10-pin. Delp came up real clutch in that 2-frame roll-off they had to get through as they tied the 2nd seed team, Keith Poppity and Mike Taylor, tied at 386 and forced the 2-frame roll-off, Baker format roll-off, and was victorious in that to advance to this title match.
So we're down to Rick Graham out of Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and his partner, Scott Denlinger, also from Lancaster. And right now, Troy Lint takes his second shot of the game. His first one was a strike, goes through the nose there, gets a 9 count, but Denlinger going up on the left side. He's been a member since 1992 of the PBA and never won. Highest finish of 2nd, but he's definitely a guy who's been around the game. And so is his partner, Rick Graham, who won 2 regional titles on the PBA regional tour.
Troy is certainly not a newcomer to the final match. Certainly, we have run some tournaments with a shorter type pattern like today, and I know he has bowled well in some of my events that have had the shorter patterns. So it seems like these patterns play maybe into the left-hander's hands a little bit, but certainly the way the scores were today, we saw a handful of left-handers and right-handers in the finals. So I think it played tough really for everybody, but they just really have stuck it out here. Picks up the spare there in the 2nd frame, but we still have a perfect scoreboard on the right lane for Denlinger and Graham as Denlinger gets a double. Rick Graham up for the 2nd frame.
Yeah, Troy Lint, you're saying not unused to this stuff. He was the PA State Team Event Scratch Champion this past year, so he has a big title on his hand.
Well, and the one thing about Troy Lint's partner, John Delp, one of the greatest bowlers in the Berks County area. I have the great opportunity to bowl in a league that he also bowls in on a Wednesday night down at Berks Lanes. And, the resume is amazing. 146 300 games, 138 800 series. I don't care what condition you're bowling on. That's an amazing resume no matter how whether the lanes are easy or hard. That's just an amazing resume. So certainly leaves the 2-8 spare there in the second frame, looking to pick it up and get back-to-back spares, as he does.
And Delps also won the Berks County Amateur 5 times, 2002, 2003, 10, 12, and then just this past year as well. So he really is doing very big things down in the Berks County.
Yes, he's one of the most well-known bowlers of our the Reading area, I should say. It's a big area for youth bowling, and I could say high school and collegiate bowling, and also the adult ranks. And John has been bowling from a young age, so he's really showed his talents out there on the lanes.
Well, back in to the finals match again. Troy Lint, John Delp III going against Scott Denlinger and Rick Graham. That was Denlinger on the right side. He starts off with 3 strikes in a row, and so far a clean match for both of these teams bowling on this fresh pair in lane 5 and 6.
Certainly some elite bowlers here in our final match today, certainly taking on a very tough pattern. It'll be interesting to see how we have 2 right-handers playing the right side of the lane by themselves and 2 left-handers also playing the left side of the lane. So there's a nice strike by John Delp. So both picks up the strike there. So through 3 frames, very clean. Rick Graham looking to follow up his second frame spare with a strike here in the 3rd frame. The 2-5.
Rick Graham strike and a spare his first 2 frames again. Need another spare here to stay clean. Now, Matt, would you like to tell us how these 2 teams got to this point here in the finals match?
Sure, absolutely. Linton Delp actually went 24-35 for 6 games. They were the 5th seed coming into the finals. Their biggest game of the day was their second game when they shot 491, but actually took a step back in the last game of qualifying, only shooting 344, but certainly was able to, they maintained a lead in the tournament through the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th games, but then took a little bit of a step back with that last game, but they've really stepped it up again here in the finals, so be interesting to see how they do. Scott Denlinger and Rick Graham were the 6th seed. They were the final team to qualify for the finals. Their best game of the day being a 451, which is in the final game of the qualifying to sneak their way into the finals. We had 9 teams that actually cashed in today's tournament, but they were the 6th seed with that 451 game to get into the match. Both teams advancing by winning quarterfinal and semifinal matches, as we televised earlier here on YouTube.com and Bowlers Heartland Bowling Tournaments, and starts off with a very exciting match as we enter the 4th frame now.
Very close. This one's staying close much of like the entire time here. These players, they start out strong, very slowly sometimes they'll drift away, but again, this is a fresh pair of oil here that these 2 teams are bowling on, so we'll have to see how that pertains into this match.
Absolutely. Big shot there for John Delp, giving both of them a double through 4 frames. Denlinger getting his first spare of the game in the 4th frame. Rick Graham looking to get back on the strike trail. He has a strike and 2 spares, 4th frame. A little wide again. Gets a good break and leaves the 2-pin. Currently, the board shows Denlinger and Graham up about 17 pins. However, Lint and Delp have doubles going into the 5th frame, so we have a very close match here in our title match as they bowl for $2,000 and $1,000 respectively for 1st and 2nd.
So this is going to be a big paycheck for not just even the winner, but for both of these teams here in this championship match at the BuddiesProShop.com Adult Bowlers Tour here in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania at ABC East Lanes. I'm Dylan Bauer alongside Matt Himmelreich, also the director of today's tournament.
Want to thank you guys once again for putting this on. This is a great thing for bowling. Certainly going viral with a lot of things, and social media has been a big growth over the past couple of years with bowling. So we appreciate you guys doing this. And I do want to quick mention for any of our PJBT bowlers, 21 and under out there, that know that many of you know that I run the PJBT Bowlers Tour for 21 and under bowlers all over the state of Pennsylvania. We're going to be back here on Sunday, January the 18th for our 6th major tournament of the season, where the best youth bowlers from the entire northeastern part of the country will be here at ABC East Lanes competing for scholarships. And we plan to be back on Heartland Bowling Tournaments, is proud to televise that finals also. So mark your calendars. If you're not here at the lanes, make sure you jump on your iPad or your computer and check out the live finals. It'll be great.
It's definitely something to look forward to, even in your tournament here, the adult tournament, several upcoming tournaments. On January 11th, you'll be down in Hanover for a tournament there at 12 p.m. And then on February 15th, you'll be at Berks Lanes at 12 noon. Again, those are for the adult tournaments. And the ABC's one on January 18th will be for the youth 21 and under. So back here on the finals match, John Delp III and Troy Lint going against Scott Denlinger and Rick Graham. That was Rick Graham on the right side. And so far, Denlinger and Graham have the lead through 4.5 frames, but Delp working on a strike. He's now up on the left lane.
Looked like Graham on that shot. Last shot didn't like it. Knew that he got it a little wide, as it seems like the common spare he's been leaving has been light. It's been the 2-2-5 combinations. Big break there for John Delp on the left lane, as he could have left a big split. The 4-7 falling late, leaving a simple 1-3 spare to clean up.
Graham, the spare on the right side again. Tough pattern in the WTBA Beijing 35-foot pattern.
It's very interesting to see on these shorter patterns as the adult bowlers, grind it out, this pattern today. Many times we use these patterns for the youth tournaments, and I know when our youth go to bowl the national event at Junior Gold, it seems like the shorter patterns are the make or break patterns. A lot of times when the youth bowl at nationals, the longer and the mid-length patterns are scoreable, we'll say, but the short patterns are typically what kills someone or helps advance someone. So it's very interesting to see that even on the adult bowlers, this certainly the shorter patterns are a challenge.
And again, we mentioned it earlier, it just comes down to mistakes. And so far here in the championship match, there really has been no big mistakes, no missing of spares, no bad or awful first shots. So for the most part, both of these teams are able to be in it just by not making any mistakes.
Very good point, and as you mentioned that, you see that we have both bowlers, Troy Lint leaving a split, a 1-3-7-9, certainly a makeable combination, but on the left lane, Scott Denlinger leaving the very tough 3-9-10 combination. Lint was not able to convert the first open frame of this title match.
So now Denlinger tries to shoot his split, and he'll make his. So the tougher one of the two was made to keep his game clean. He started out with 3 in a row to start, and then spare strike spare for him. And Graham's working on 4 spares in a row. So much like last game's kind of what Rick Graham did in the last one. Started out with a strike and then many spares in a row before he was finally able to get a strike again.
Once again, going back to the point we talked about earlier, so important to make spares on these types of patterns. you know going into these types of patterns that you're not going to probably shoot 260, 270. It's going to be more of a grind out type game. And, you know, Rick has the experience on the regional and professional bowlers tour to know that that can be the difference between winning and losing, is keeping that board clean. Comes up with a big strike there on the left lane.
So there's Graham's second strike here of the title match. And his team holding on to a slim lead. And as we are now through 6 frames, as Delp is able to pick up his spare.
Board shows us that just 7 pins are separating our 2 title teams. We have a 7-pin lead for Denlinger and Graham, our 6th seed in this 5 versus 6 seed match.
Again, 44 teams today in today's event, consisting of 88 bowlers. So we're finally down to the top 2 teams in Scott Denlinger, Rick Graham, Troy Lint, and his partner in John Delp III. Lint, good shot there, just not able to get that 7-pin to fall.
The challenge of these patterns is you throw a bad shot, you pay the price. You throw a good shot, sometimes you still don't carry. So that's the challenge of, again, putting those marks on the board. So Lint looking for a spare here, and he gets it.
So Lint bouncing back after his open last frame. Again, Denlinger on the right side. He's able to pick up his single pin spare. So through the first person 7 frames, it's Scott Denlinger who's able to out his opponent and Troy Lint at the moment, but pretty much same bowling on both of them, just really just the one open frame from Lint in the 6th frame, and that's pretty much the difference there between their 2 totals, as Delp leaves a 7 count.
Not sure if the lanes are transitioning a little bit in this game, but it does look like Delp might have gotten that ball in just a little bit and was not able to hold the shot. So 2-4-7. So
yeah, Denlinger starting out with 3 in a row. He's been slowly drifting now, and even the other side, they were in Lint and Delp. They started off with a couple of strikes, and Graham's currently on a strike. He had 4 spares there in the middle frames.
looking for a double. Graham goes high, leaving the 3-6. So now spare conversion. Him and Denlinger both be on a spare. Delp looking for a spare. They would both also be on a spare. So that will essentially even up the board. But Graham and Delp still holding approximately a 17 to 18 pin lead through 7 frames.
Rick Graham, member of the 1987 Team USA. He had the opportunity to bowl in Finland. He finished 5th in doubles when he was there. And then he's also he's member of several staffs for professional bowling. And he has 2 regional titles, so he's been on the tour for a while. And he's a guy, he knows what this comes down to, and he's been fairly clean throughout the entire finals match. Hasn't necessarily got all the strikes, other than the first game he had 6 in a row, but after that, just really staying clean. And that's been a big help to Denlinger and Graham as far as getting to this part in the match.
Big shot there by Denlinger, just no carry there. Meanwhile, Troy gets a strike on the left lane. Those guys really need this heading into the late stages of this match, trailing by a couple of pins. Very important to string some together here as we come down to the end.
Denlinger shoots his 10 pin. He'll get that one. So again, fairly close match. For the most part, how they all have been here in the finals 4 of the 5 games have been extremely close. The other one, not as much, but still a good match until later in the contest. So that's really, when you see a pattern like this, something you can expect, at least close in engaging matches, as Delp is able to get a strike on the right side.
Big shot there. Big shot there on the right lane for John Delp. Both putting up a single strike so that they can try to build on the foundation frame coming up. Meanwhile, Denlinger on a spare, and Graham up in the 8th frame on the left lane. Good shot. Just didn't carry. Just didn't carry once again. Great angle to the pocket. Just didn't have enough to take out the 7 there.
So if he can convert this spare, Graham and Denlinger move on to the 9th frame with both spares. Meanwhile, Lint and Delp move on with both strikes. So that also can play a big role, as right now the boards show that Denlinger and Graham are leading, but with those strikes, Lint and Delp can easily change that.
Yeah, big foundation frame here, the 9th frame. You know, if Lint and Delp can both get a strike and get a doubles going into the 10th, you know, the board shows they're down 17 pins, but if they both double here, it essentially, once again, evens the match going into the 10th and final frame. So, big shot here for Troy Lynn on the left lane, 9th frame.
Lint, solid 7 pin off of the strike. That would have been a big double for the lefty and his team.
Again, big shot, good job. Made a quality shot, just didn't carry. Denlinger crossing over, leaving the 6 pin.
I think Denlinger and Graham were a little happy on that result as well. When he let that ball go, you could see Graham's hands come up to his head, but I'm pretty sure they'll be happy with how that turned out.
Good cover there by Lint. See what John Delp can do, as at this point nobody but Delp could potentially have a double going into the 10th frame. So
Denlinger able to stay clean.
I think if Denlinger and Graham happen to go on and win this thing, obviously the match certainly not over yet, but one thing you want to point out as you look at the board, again, no open frames for either one of them on this very challenging Beijing pattern. Spares are so important on this pattern. So, but a big shot now on the 9th frame for Delp on the left lane.
7 count. So no player will go into the 10th frame with a double, but Rick Graham has the opportunity if he can strike here. Struck on the right lane back in the 1st frame. Other than that, been spare since.
Interesting shot there by Delp on the left lane. Looked like he hit his mark. Ball just did not react the way he thought. Meanwhile, Graham with a big strike on the right lane.
And that's really going to be one of the big momentum builders going into the 10th frame. That one strike could prove a difference in the match.
Well, right now, Denlinger and Graham are on pace to shoot around 440. Oh, and a big chop spare there by Delp. Very important foundation frame. Unfortunately now, 170 on the board, so they can only shoot 4-0 at this point. So they are going to need some help from Denlinger and Graham to get back in the match. Meanwhile, Lint goes wide, missing the head pin to the left, leaving the 139.
So Lint and Delp can't shoot over 400 now with that shot. And meanwhile, Denlinger on the left lane rolls it out, and he'll go through the nose again. Same thing as last frame, where he leaves the 6th pin. But he's over 200 in the title match.
Once again, a fortunate shot for him, you know, going through the face. not leaving a split, leaving something that he could actually convert. Again, a key with this pattern is to keep filling those frames as those guys have been doing.
There's Denlinger, shoots his 10 pin. He'll make that, so he'll finish today being clean. He'll have one more shot to go here in the 10th frame as Lint looks to finish his day as well. There's the fill ball for Lint. He'll cross over. 9 count for him, so he'll finish today 189 for Troy Lint. Denlinger, his final shot will be a strike for him. Outstanding job for him, just like you just said, Matt. 215 Denlinger will finish with and puts his team in a good spot to come out victorious.
Yeah, Rick Graham just needs to pretty much keep the ball in the lane here, try to avoid the open frame, just get a decent count on his first ball, and they're going to be taking home the title.
Delp with the strike, so puts at least some kind of pressure on. But like you said, a 9 count here wins it a strike. Or rather, I guess a 5 count would win it. And that'll do it. And Rick Graham and his partner Scott Denlinger will be the champions here at ABC East Lanes and the BuddiesProShop.com Adult Bowlers Tour, also presented by Brunswick. They'll be going home with $2,000. And meanwhile, Troy Lint and his partner John Delp III, they'll be going home with $1,000. And Delp able to go another strike, but really the big difference there, like you were saying, foundation frame there in the 9th frame, just the open frame by John Delp. He has 2 strikes in a row here, and that could have been a big difference to end this game as Rick Graham makes his spare. And the 2 teams.
Yeah. Ironically, Rick bowled one of the lowest games of his entire scorecard today here in the finals with this 190-some game, as he has the fill ball yet. But again, keeping the board clean, it only took around a 400 score for with him and Scott to win this match.
Not a single open, which is a great achievement for a team. Not one open that entire game for either Scott Denlinger or Rick Graham, as they finish today with a 409 in the championship match to defeat Troy Lint and John Delp III to 388.
All right, we'll be right back with the presentation of the winners. I'll be out on the lanes with our winners, and we'll also have an interview with them in just a moment. So hang in there here on Heartland Bowling Tournaments on YouTube.
Champions, the 6th seed, going into the finals. $1,000 apiece for $2,000. Scott Denlinger and Rick Graham. Nice bowl. Great bowling. How much do I get? It looks like people want to get a picture. You want a picture? Yes, please.
Okay, we're back here at ABC East Lanes with our champions from the Buddies Pro Shop Adult Bowlers Tour Tournament. Rick Graham and Scott Denlinger. Guys, congratulations.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about the lanes out there today. The scores looked pretty tough. So
They're tough. The first game, I decided after a couple shots, I decided I'm going to stay with the pitch black urethane ball and just keep it in play and keep the scores. Try to stay out of trouble.
Well, it's very interesting you mentioned that, because on the telecast we were talking about how these patterns, when they play so much tougher, it's important to fill frames, put spares up there. So much we forget about that in today's game. And we talked about how you both in that title match there basically made sure the board was clean.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
tell us a little bit about the day, though. I know you guys started at 9th place going into the last game, last cashing spot. Shoot a big game to get up to 6th, kind of sneak your way into the finals, and then take it from there.
Just the last game, before the last game, we had a tough 5th game. Scott struggled, and he decided he was going to make a ball change and just try something the last game. We tried to, we had nowhere to go but up. And he made the right ball change and shot 230. I shot 210 for 450, and it took us from 9th to 6th to make it. And he used that ball in the finals, and I stayed with what I used all day, and we got a couple breaks early. I got a couple breaks early against Kerry and John.
Right.
And then Cornog Brothers, had us early, and we threw some strikes at the end to win that. And
Right.
Eric got a bad break with the 10 pin to 10th.
Yeah, in that semifinal match, you guys were basically behind for much of the match until you got a couple strikes together there at the end, and you both had a couple strikes going. So
Yeah,
It came down to the end.
Absolutely. I mean, today it's team effort. We worked together, talked to each other about what we needed to do, what we needed to make adjustments. I mean, we talked to each other and made ball changes based upon what the other person was seeing. When you're bowling doubles, that's key. You actually got a set of eyes to help you along.
Even though we're playing the lanes different, we still were
Right.
kind of helping each other, what we saw and what we thought.
Absolutely.
Well, we talked about that on the telecast too, about how guys were playing in, some were playing out. Typically, I mentioned that when the youth bowlers that I see bowl these patterns, typically a short pattern like this one today is a make or break pattern, because some bowl really good on it and some bowl terrible on it. And it's to keep the ball in play, and that's essentially what you guys did.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, I actually started playing outside with something with a little bit of surface just to get it to read and stop exactly what you want in a short pattern. And I just really couldn't find a good look to make myself shoot 2 over 210 or even 230. So started making adjustments and changing balls. And I would never, in my wildest dreams, figured I was going to be throwing what I was throwing into the zone I was there the last couple games. But you got to move and do what you got to do to strike.
That's right, absolutely. Well, again, our champions today, Mr. Rick Graham and Mr. Scott Denlinger. Congratulations to both of you taking home the $2,000 prize.
We'd like to thank all the sponsors and everybody involved. We appreciate having an opportunity to bowl, and we appreciate everybody giving us this opportunity. It's great.
Absolutely.
JBT and Buddies Pro Shop and Chris, and I got to thank Storm making the best equipment.
Absolutely.
Put me over the top.
Yep.
Absolutely. Well, congratulations, guys, and we thank everybody for watching, and we hope to see everybody on January 11th at our next BuddiesProShop.com Adult Bowlers Tour event in Hanover. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
All right, congratulations.
Thanks.
Nice bowling.
I got to work every other weekend now, so I was pissed last week. I'm like, oh man, I can't go.